Hello there and welcome to this new video. Now today you've got a lot to expect because this is a 15-minute Supabase masterclass where you are going to learn everything that you need to know about Supabase and how you can implement it in your business. Now let me first walk you through the structure of the video, how this is going to work, and then we will go deep down into every single section. So first, my cold opener to you is business normally runs on spreadsheets. It's still the old age of Google Sheets, Excel and stuff like that because to be honest with you, what I see in most of my clients, they are scared of Supabase and of real databases, which I completely understand. I mean, I was scared of it first too, since it does look like it is only for developers. But this excuse died a long time ago, and today you will see how easy it is to use this and why it is the best way to run your business. I will walk you through everything. Now let's get to the sections. First, we've got the subscriptions, we've got the differences, what is better, what is worse for your exact scenario. Then we'll be creating a new project, new account, everything in Supabase from completely clean sheet. I've created some mock business or example business Skyline Studio. We'll be importing data and stuff like that. You will see there's a lot of it. Then the third part, which is super important to me, is the databases and different types of value we can have. I'm pretty sure if you've ever worked with JSON and stuff like that, you already understand this, but it is amazingly important, so that's why I want to bring it up. Fourth part, importing your data, super simple, it will take less than a few minutes. I've created a custom CSV, which should be leads for the Skyline, our mock business, example business, and we'll be just simply importing them in. Then fifth part, we've got the SQL Editor, which is absolutely important part of this video. SQLs are the scary part of Supabase, and most people don't really understand how easy it is to use them and why you should use them, because it can save hundreds of hours to you. Then I will show you 10 queries that I use mostly often and that businesses should use and are super simple to implement. Then I will also give you my ChatGPT prompt, which you can use to generate SQL editors and anything that you need in the SQL language. I will also explain what is the SQL language and how it works. Then the sixth part is edge functions. Now edge functions, again, it might sound a bit scary. It looks a bit scary because you would think that you need to know programming and coding for stuff, but that is the complete opposite. You don't need to understand anything like that with the system that I will show you. Now first I will walk you through first three edge functions that are pretty useful. And then what I will do is give you another ChatGPT prompt you can use to generate actual edge functions and also a little bit of a bonus if you stay till this part. Then I've got the storage, which is the seventh part, which is, storage. It is super simple. You can store all of your data inside of Supabase and either have it publicly or privately. So you can import your local data and have like a cloud link to it, so you can anytime access it, even if you don't have access to your computer. Then the important part, which will be the vector database, which is not really important part, but I would say it is the most sophisticated and most fun part of this video. We'll be together creating a vector database and an add-in reg agent, which again, you can do this through Cloud Code, you can do this through anything you want, but I'm a bit of old school here. I still use an add-in because I think it's the best one out there. Then part 6, we've got integrations, how to set this up with an add-in, with make.com and with Zapier, so the main automation tools. And then lastly, we've got the Supabase MCP and how we can connect it to Cloud Code, which is again super simple, even though it may sound a bit weird, but it is super simple and super helpful. I mean, I've saved hundreds of hours by this Supabase MCP. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Now let's get deep into every single section of this video. Okay, amazing. So let's get to the first section, which is how much will it cost you the subscription and what to choose. I'll try to make this super quickly. I will not go into the details because you can find all of this information inside of the supabase.com pricing. I'll make sure to leave this whole presentation down below in the description so you can find it, you can download it and go over it yourself. Now, from my experience, I have built and created from scratch Supabase accounts, databases and projects for multiple of my clients at this point. I would say even over 10, and I have used the pro version one time, and it was for a pretty sophisticated option. I never really used it. I use the free version even for myself. And if you are trying to just build something for your business, maybe a CRM, some storing of documents, maybe some transcripts from your calls, this is all you need, the free version. The only downside on this is you don't have as much security and safety, because there are no backups, daily backups like in here, and it pauses after 7 days of nothing happening. Basically, if in your project you don't do any changes, within 7 days it will get paused and it will be on pause for the next 90 days. Now here you've got two options. You go manually into Supabase and you click unpause, or in the 90 days, after the 90 days period, it will just automatically delete itself and you have no way to access your projects anymore, which is not ideal, right? That's why the pro version, of course, if you are building this for your software and you don't mind paying $25 a month, then yeah, I believe it's the best option out here. And I wouldn't normally start with this. I would start with the free one, and if I notice that this is working for me and I'm gonna have the safety net, I would 100% go with the $25. Now, the main reason is you've got the daily backups, which are kept in here for 7 days, so that's pretty good. You've got no pausing, which is actually really needed, and you've got more usage, obviously, less limitations, more customizable. Then with the theme version, I never use the theme version, and I don't know anybody that uses it. This is, for example, if you are running some big software or some big app that uses a lot of people, a lot of users a month. That's when I would use the theme version. Other than that, I would never go there. And the custom one, that's for some pretty crazy scenarios. I never saw anybody use it, so I'm not gonna recommend it, and I'm not gonna talk much about it since I don't know how it works. Okay, so I think that's pretty much about it for the subscription phase. Now let's move on to the next part. Now let's get into the interesting stuff, which is the second part where we get actually into Supabase, and I will show you everything. So let's search up Supabase in our browser. Let's go right here. Now start your project. Since we've got a completely new project, here you have to sign up, so create some password. Now it's gotta be a pretty interesting password. You need to use some special characters, you need to use numbers, lower cases, everything. So it isn't so simple, but I think that's pretty good, since if somebody gets into a Supabase account, you are in a lot of trouble. So let's go to our Gmail, because we have to authenticate it as us. Alrighty, confirm email address. Actually, I've got this new account on Google. Well, not completely new, but I don't use it, so I can show you how it works to create a new account right here. Okay, now we can just sign in. So with the same thing, okay, it signed us up automatically, signed us in. Okay, great. So you are in here. This is what you will see. It's exactly the same thing. So create your new organization. Now name, we can do whatever we want, but I'm going to move forward with, for example, business ideas. We can maybe use this database for some business ideas, business softwares that are just startups, and then migrate it into another database. Okay, now type personal education or startup. Let's do startup. And plan, we want to use the free plan for now. Create organization. Alrighty, now it might take a while to set everything up, but it shouldn't be long. Great. So organization, business ideas, project name. Now we are creating our project. Let's go with our business that we just here created. So Skyline Studio database password. Now make sure you save this database password up. Of course, you can reset it anytime you want, but we will be using this later in the video. So let's go with right here, this one, and I hope it automatically saves. If not, I will just go to Google Sheets, sign in real quick, and paste it over. Password, okay, password, great. Of course, I'm gonna change this one so you don't use it. Okay, region, I'm in Europe, so I'm gonna choose Europe, and here we've got enable data API. We want to enable this automatically expose new tables. Also, we want to enable this, and then this is optional though, enable automatic errorless. I'm gonna use this since it's basically a security for your rows. Advanced configuration, here there is nothing that we need to do, just choose Postgres in default. That's what I'm using. And yeah, now let's create a new project. Let's give it a few seconds. Alright, so now this is your Supabase database. You can do anything you want in here. Though our next step, okay, now here we can see that I mentioned that we can use the API keys early, so we can set this up early. So we're not gonna do it later, but I mean, it doesn't really matter. We will do this once we are integrating. So let's go to the next section, which is part 3, and it's the actual database where I'm gonna show you all of the values. Okay, now tiny bit of a change in the process. I'm not gonna be using the part 3 now. I'm gonna be skipping this and going to part 4 where we'll be importing our data, so we can go straight into showing you exact examples when I'm gonna be working with the different data types. Okay, so first things first, let's go to our Supabase. Here we can see we've got the table editor. We can create our new project, for example, new table. Let's call it leads. Great. Now we can see that we can add any type of column in here, which is what I will be going through with you, or we can just import data from CSV, which is much simpler. You don't have to add everything in yourself. So let's click import data. Now here we've got two options. We can either drag and drop our CSV, like I've got right here, leads CSV, and we've got it automatically imported in here. Or what we can do is simply just paste text, though you have to be careful, the format must be right. I've got it in here. When you scroll down, you can just copy the CSV if you want to use it as example, send it over, and you can see it works exactly the same. Now, if you have some database and you want to send it over to AI like this, to Supabase like this, and you don't know how to actually format it, you can just go to ChatGPT as always, send over all of your rows and tell it to format it in the CSV format, so you can send it over to Supabase, and it will do this for you. You can then just copy it, paste it here, and go on about your day. So here we've got the leads, right? Let's save it up. Amazing. Now we can see we've got a warning, we've got no primary key selected. So that's what we need to do. Now, what are primary keys? How do they work? I will go more into depth in a second. Now let's just choose it and see our whole database. So for example, what can be our primary key? I would say let's use the email as primary key. So let's click it as primary. Great, now let's save this up. Let me walk you through what is the primary key and how does it work. Okay, so we've got all of our 24 rows added. Now we should be able to work with them. Okay, amazing. Now the primary key, how does it work? Because in normal Google Sheets, you don't have any primary key, as you can see. Basically, in Supabase, you cannot have duplicate rows. You cannot have exactly the same two rows, because that would mess up with the whole database and it would obviously not work. That's why you've got the primary key. So for example, as I chose the email as the primary key, it always has to be different in every single row. So for our leads, obviously we want the emails to be different because, as I already said, we don't want to have duplicates. That's why I choose it as primary key. Normally you can do this by creating a new ID column in here. So let's do insert column. You can just click ID. Here you choose, for example, sorry about that, you choose integer 8 and default value. We don't want to use that, but what we want to do is have it as primary and automatically assign SQL number to the column. So this identity will automatically do all of the work for you. You don't have to create the expression or anything like that. So now let's save it up. Okay, let's go away from this. Great, now we will see that we've got the IDs right here. So we can just delete the email as primary key and we will have the ID as our primary key, which is automatically generated. Now this, since we are using integer 8, which I will go over again, it is a different type of value and database. It can pretty much be any type of number to huge extents like 80 billion. Okay, now let's add our next database, which is the messages CSV. Because we did last time, let's do messages, right? Yes, messages. Last time I just pasted it over. This time let's import it from the actual CSV. So let's do messages. Amazing, let's save it up. Great, now again we don't have any primary key, so what I would do is add a new column. If I can do it here, that would be great. If I can, then we will just do it later. So let's for now do primary key, again the lead email. Okay, let's save it up. Okay, so the lead email is okay, it is working, but it didn't import anything. Check if there are any disrupt. Yes, Because I chose the lead email, it didn't import anything since the lead email is probably there as duplicates and multiple times, which means that it cannot be a primary key. Now this is my fault, but this is great to show you what you cannot do. Really. So let's do primary key to create that. Let me delete the whole table and let's start all over. So messages, let me just pull it from here. Great, enable row lever security, this is what we want to have, and import data from CSV. We want to do again messages. Now we can see that yes, we've got multiple of the same emails, which is not ideal at all. But what I can see is we've got different created edit. So for now we can use this as the primary key till we create the actual ID. Okay, let's use this, let's continue. Hopefully it works, and yes, we can see that it is working. Great. Now what we want to do is create a new column which will be the actual ID. Choose integrate just like before. This is identity, so it will automatically be created. Is primary key, allow nullable no, and let's save it up. Let's give it a few seconds and we can then delete the primary key from our created ad. Okay, great. Now let's edit this. Column is primary key, allow nullable, save it up. Column is primary key, it is no longer a primary key. So let's save it up like this. Let's give it a few seconds. Great. And now we can see we've got just here the ID is primary key. For the leads, we can keep it on the email because we don't have duplicate leads. So I would say let's keep it like this. Okay, now let's go to the next part, which are the different types of value. Now here I just added the main ones that I seem to come across quite a lot, and what to use, what don't use, and when to be careful. So let me go through with this and show you examples. First, we've got the integrate, which is basically whole numbers, counts, quantities, lead scores, anything. It can go to billions, hundreds of billions, it can go to pretty much almost infinity. I'll just be very careful because there are no decibels here. So you cannot do like 8.6789. At least I believe that's the case. Let me see. Let's try to edit this. Okay, we cannot edit that, so let's go to add a new row and let's add the primary key. Where is it? The ID. Yes, the ID. Let's do, for example, 9.9. And I believe this will not work for the email. Let's do my email. Since that's not integer. Yes, we cannot have the decimal amounts in here. So if I were to do this, then yes, it will work. Alright, that's just to showcase you how it works. Now you have also different options like the integer 2 and 4, I believe, yes, but I never actually used these because why would you use them if you can use the integer 8? It basically means that you have smaller numbers here, which is pretty, unuseful. I never used those two. Okay, the next one we've got the numeric, which is the exact opposite. You can have the decimals here. You can use it for money, you can use it for cents, you can use it for pretty much anything with decimals. So let's create a new column in here where you can see, let's do for the leads like spend. So how much did they spend or shop? And here let's choose numeric. Okay, now we can see. Let me create this, save it up, give it a few seconds. Okay, in here now I can choose the actual decimal number. So for example, 892.73. Great. So this is how much they spent. You can see that we can use it with any type of number, even longer. It can be pretty much again to infinity. I don't believe you'll ever need to use this big of a number, but you can if you want to. Okay, now we've got float 4 and float 8. Now be careful with these because again, I don't use them often. It's fast approximate decimals, fine for coordinate, but it isn't good for business and for cash. So yeah, just be careful with these. I can again show you in a new column. Let's add these, so float 4 and float 8, which is great. I just don't really use them. So I'm not gonna be adding them to our database. Then we've got basic text, which I'm pretty sure you are familiar with. If you have ever worked with any type of AI automation or JSON, it's the normal text like you can see here. It's pretty much anything. You can put anything here. You can put the numbers, decimals, anything can be stored in here, just not JSON and different data structures like that. But in the text field, you can use pretty much anything. It just then looks different when you output it as JSON. Now, that's not what this video really is about, so I'm not gonna be going deep into that. And then UUID. This again, it can be used for IDs and for primary keys. So if I were to add another new column and we would use it ID second. So our second ID, now choose the type. I would do UUID, and now let's use it as primary key. Default, we don't have any default, but it should be unique. Let's save it up. This will probably not create any. Yes, that will not create any, which is troubling, but I can just show it to you by creating a new table. Yeah, example data types. Okay, now in here we can see if we've got ID. I will choose the UUID, get random, which is basically an expression that will give us a random UUID. Now it's a primary key. I can just save this up. It will create the new table with our primary key as this data type. Let's create a new row. Not column, let's create a new row so you can see how it works. ID is gonna be whatever we want. Now here, let's do third 2000, and then I don't know. Okay, save it up, and you can see it will generate this huge ID for us. Now this is again amazing with, for example, using it for leads. If you want a different identification in your, for example, software. I use it when I was running my software in databases, or you can use this even for generating some passwords or keys. If you want to use some custom API keys, it's pretty good. Okay, now let's get to the next part, which is varchar, which is basically text with a cap. I never use this. I would probably skip this, because why would you use it if you can just use the next normal text? I'm not even probably gonna be showing it to you, since I don't have any example to show it on to you. Then we've got timestamps with the time zone, which I would always recommend using. I wouldn't use normal timestamp because that's pretty irrelevant. You don't know where it's coming from or anything like that. I would always just use the one with the timestamp, because I mean it's just much better. You can see it in here, though. If you want me to create a new column, I can do that. Basically, time. You can choose it right here. Timestamp. Oh, sorry about that. Timestamp. Timestamp. You've got two options now. With no time zone, you have no possibility of understanding when is this actually happening. So I always choose with the time zone. Okay. Let's discard the changes. Next one we've got is a boolean, which is super simple. I'm pretty sure I'm familiar with it. It's basically true or false. I've used it at least 100 times in NIDN and in other use cases. It is pretty good. I love to use it. So let's create a new row or column in here, since it seems like we don't have any boolean in our leads table. Okay, so let's create one, and let's use, for example, budget over 100 or something like that. So column, let's do budget over 100 or 1000. Here let's choose boolean, and default should be true. Okay, now save it up. Great. Now you can see that we will have basically in the database choice of either true or false, or actually null, but you can again choose, if you don't want to have null, that you don't allow it to be nullable by simply going here, editing the column and choosing allow nullable off. Now I know I'm going a bit more into depth, I'm showing you everything, but I believe repetition is the best thing to remember stuff, so that's why I'm going over and over again to the same stuff. Now let's go to this next part, which is JSONB. Now we should have JSON in here. Yes, we've got JSONB right here. This is basically, how would I say, this is language that data talks through. Basically, this is the best storation of data between different computers, for example, or different nodes inside of NIDN. Just to give you a metaphoric example, now here inside of JSON we can see We've got different types of data values, though I think right now we've got only text. If we want to change it, and I would say, for example, we want to have, I don't know, like not lost reason, but we want to have, for example, number. If we'd want to have it as a decibel, we do this, and then in here I would put, for example, 82, but I don't want to have it in these marks. Basically, if you have it in these marks, it's always a string. If you don't, it's a number. But one thing that I did mess up with is we have to add the comma here. Okay, now if I were to send this over, we can see that it is working. Okay, it is not working because we don't have the right identifier. Sorry about that. I must have deleted the primary key by mistake, so let me put it back. This is our primary key. Save it up real quick. I'm not sure when this happened, but sometimes this stuff can happen, and then you cannot do any changes to your row because obviously it would not work. Okay, that's about it for now. Now I know this was pretty more sophisticated, more specific. I might have repeated myself and I'll explain it in the best way, but I believe this gave you a lot of better idea on how the different databases work. If you would like to understand them even more, I've got a video up there which is exactly about JSON and the different data type structures. Great, now our next section is the SQL Editor. Now yes, this might sound a bit scary and might look a bit scary if you ever used Excel, but let me tell you, I will not be telling you or advising you to even learn any type of SQL language, because it's completely unnecessary in this new AI age, since AI can do it all for you, and in a bit I will give you the prompt on how to use this for example, ChatGPT. Okay, now let me explain the SQL, what it is. As you can see, we are in Supabase. On the left you can see SQL Editor. Now what I want to change and I don't like is the system being light, so I'm going to change it to dark. It's here in the account settings. Okay, now here we can write anything. Obviously if I were to send this off, it would do nothing, but SQL Editor and SQL language is basically the language that databases talk through, I would say, and different tables and stuff like that. It helps you to communicate with your tables and your projects without actually being inside of them. So let's give it an example. If I were to want to insert for example, a row, I would normally have to come here and manually insert a new row. What I can do is just come to SQL, write insert, okay. Then I would go with the row and everything, but since I don't know this language, I cannot do it for you. I just wanted to give you a quick example. So yeah, it would insert the row for you, or if you've got big databases, you can again import it through this. You can connect this to your MCP and that can do pretty much anything for you. So you can run any type of SQL query you want. You can create edge functions, you can create normal functions, you can run migrations through here. So you don't have to do anything manually, which I think is much better if you are using bigger scale stuff and doing more changes at once. Amazing. Now let's get to the more interesting part of the video where you actually get some free value from me. And yeah, I created 10 queries that you can use and I think are pretty useful. I've actually used every single one of these beforehand, so I know how they work. And I created a quick sections on how you can use them yourself in any type of business you are running. Now I'm gonna be showing them to you super quickly so we don't waste much time on this, but I want to make sure you understand them. You understand the SQL language a tiny bit more so you can then use it with ChatGPT and create your own SQL stuff. So yeah, the first one is for opportunities. Basically, you wake up in the morning, you know what to work on, so you just query your leads database. Now this works either if you have been going through a video with me and creating your database as well as I did and downloading the CSV from this presentation. But if you haven't, you just need to do some simple changes, or what you can do is just send this over to ChatGPT, tell it to do the same for your database, and that's it. Though if you want to do it yourself, you just change the select, so the columns that you want to select, and then you change the from to your actual table name. As you can see, we've got the leads name. Other than that, I think everything is the same. Basically what this does is searches our database, finds the status, and searches for anything that is not won or lost. So these will not be in our query result, it will be these ones. Now let me run it real quick. Another pretty interesting thing, I'm not sure if I said it in the last video, basically you don't run stuff by just clicking enter, because by clicking enter you just create a line break, you do Ctrl and then enter, or Control. Ctrl is in my language probably. Okay, now we can see we've got quite a lot of Supabase database information in here, so all of the rows, all of the leads like this. Now we can just come in here, search it up, you can contact them, do whatever you want. Though normally, of course, all of these queries, I don't expect you to use them yourself. What I would do and how I use them is connect them to n8n and do all of this stuff automatically. So then I don't have to really do anything. I get AI agents to even contact them, or at least send this over to some of my dashboard or maybe email every day. So all of this information gets sent to my email if I want it that way. Okay, the next one we've got, now beforehand for this one, we do need to send this over. Though I believe I already done this. You need to copy this whole thing, though I mean you can, it should work, because these are, yes, these are just nodes. Basically this tells our release database that we need to have a unique index, which is not primary key, it's a unique index. It's tiny bit of a change. Basically unique index doesn't mean that it has to always be different, it just means that it has to be different for the automation to work, or for the SQL that we'll be using to work. But in normal database it doesn't have to be different. So yeah, let me run this real quick, though I believe I ran it once before, but it shouldn't be any change. Okay, now we can copy this second, which is to absurd. Basically you've got some client, you are filling out information for them, but you are not sure if they are already in the database. You don't have to go through the database. If you've got, for example, thousands of leads, you don't have to scroll through and look if it is already there. You just send over this SQL. You can change these values, so for example the name, the email, the company, the source, the status, and the deal value. You can change this up in here, and again you can see the language, some pattern. We are again sending over the inserts. We are inserting a row into leads table with the values Maria Kovac, the Gmail, the company name, the source, some from website, the status, and the deal value. Then here is the important one, which is on conflict. So if there is already the same exact row or the same exact person with the same email, we do update. We don't just create or upsert the new row. So let me run this real quick. It shouldn't do anything else because we probably already, okay, I see we've got some trouble. Failed to run the SQL syntax error near W. I probably just added something which I didn't want to add. Let me just delete this, send over once more. Okay, yeah, sorry about that. Now you can see we've got Maria Kovac, Kovac Dental Clinic, deal value 4000, which is what we wanted to return right here. So returning name, company, and deal value. Okay, let's go to the third one, which is who haven't I contacted yet. So basically this once more searches our whole database of leads and gets us the status, which is new. Now what you can change here is the limit. You can do 10, you can do 20, or you can do just 5. It matters how many you want to contact. So let's run this, and we can see we've got 5 with everything that we need. Now we can see there is a returning name, email, company, and deal value. If you want to have anything more in here, we will just add anything, any other column, like for example the source. And it would work the exact same, but we would now have a source in here. I'm just trying to give you as much information in here as I can, as many examples as I can, so you understand. Then we've got take him off the list. So just, for example, you just emailed Roman. If nobody writes that down, tomorrow's list ends, you Roman again. So that's why we want to search up in here, or we want to update that he's already contacted with this SQL. Now again, this is something that I would use with n8n. So I would send over the SQL to Node and just send it off. I would normally use this manually, though if you've got some theme, it still is much simpler than to actually search up the name in the whole database. So just come in here, update the lead, set status, contacted, and where email. You can change this email to whatever the information is, whatever the email is, but I will keep it as is for now. And we are basically just updating the lead. So whenever you contact the lead, you send this over. Now you know that you have contacted it. If you wouldn't have done this, you might contact it twice. And also you can integrate Supabase with, for example, GoHelp or other CRM. So automatically when you make change like this in here, it will make a change and go high level. Okay, then we have which ads are actually working. So months ago, your form quietly saved their phone number and where they came from, Google, Instagram, and friend. You dumped it all in one box and forgot. Today, someone asks where the leads come from. This opens that box and pulls the answers back out. Okay, so basically, this is what. Sorry about that. This works with the JSON that we walked through in the last section. Let me go to leads. In here, we've got the raw payload, which is, for example, if you were to do any type of form or stuff like that, and in that form you would fill something, it would come back as raw payload of JSON, so phone, message, and UTM source. These are custom stuff that you add yourself. Now what you want to do in here is search up this raw payload and change it into normal answers. Search up in there the phone, the UTM source, and the message. And also we always want to have the UTM source. If the UTM source is null, we don't want to pull those leads. That's basically what the SQL does. So let's run it real quick. Okay, we can see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we've got 6 rows in here, and we can see their words came from. It actually changed the formatting as we asked it in here, or the keys of the columns. So we've got the phone, that stays the same. We've got the came from, which before was came from UTM source, and we've got the their words, which was before message. Amazing. Let's get to the next one. What did I miss overnight? So this is probably the new leads that came in the last 24 hours, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, basically select name, company, deal value, source, created ad, and from our database leads, or again, if you want a different database, you can just choose different database. Where created ad, now interval 24 hours. Basically here we say that the created ad is within the last 24 hours, and we want to order it by descending, so created ad is descending. Let me run this real quick. Success no rows, because no rows were added in the last 24 hours. Okay, now let's go to the next one. So how is the business actually going? Okay, this is basically creating you a dashboard with some custom KPIs inside of the Supabase by using our SQL. I will again walk you through it. Basically select status, count, sum, deal value, and round average deal value. Okay, what we are doing is status. This is count normal leads, so how many leads we've got. We want to count all of the rows. Then we want to summarize the deal value, which is probably, oh no, not summarize, but we want to sum, so take all of the lead value, deal value, and take it as one, so the pipeline value, and then we want to have the average deal, so we just calculate the average deal here. Now from database leads, group by status, order by pipeline value, descending. So let me run this real quick. Okay, and you can see that it is created as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows. Normally it would be 5, but I created this really low row in here, which was, for example, in the data types. So we've got contacted, we've got 8 of them. Pipeline value is 40,000, which is pretty good, and average deal is 5,013. We've got replied, new, won, and lost. Everything for the same, works the same. Okay, now you can import this into your dashboard. You can do whatever you want with this. You can integrate this with Cloud Codes, as we will in a second, and have this in a much more beautiful way, because obviously this doesn't look too good. What you can do also is export it as either JSON or CSV, and you can import it into, again, your dashboard, maybe some CRM, Excel, whatever you want to do, you can. Okay, what do we have next? Jana's calling. So the 8, Jana's calling, what did we say to her? Her deal is in one table, every message you've traded is in another. This stitches them into one screen, her company, her, oh, okay. So basically, we've got the tables, leads, and messages. What we want to do with this SQL is take the same person from both of these and take their columns and combine them into one table. So for example, yes, if you are calling them, you've got all of the information in one table. You don't have to go through leads, search her up, then go to messages, search her up, and now you don't see the leads. That's what this SQL is good. You can, again, this is just an example, you can use it for any type of table you are using, any type of columns you are using. So for example, select name, company, status, and then direction, channel, messages and created it. Basically, the L means leads table, M means messages table. Then from leads as L, join messages M on lead email and lead email, where lead email is Jana Fedzona Gym. And then we just want to order. Let me run this so I can explain it. Okay, I again messed it up. Let me copy this real quick. Okay, and now it will work. Give it a few seconds. Amazing. So we've got all of the messages in here. We've got pretty much everything we need. We can now export it, copy it as Markdown, or export it, copy it as Markdown here, or we can copy it into some Google Docs, for example. If you want to make a database of all of the stuff, all of the messages with everything you need, bam, we've got it like this. Now we see Jana Bielakova, Fedzona Gym replied, the message, everything that we need to see. Okay, let's go to the next one, which is I want to start scoring leads from 1 to 10. Okay, so basically a lead scoring. Now, let me understand this. Outer table leads, add column, if not exists, score, enter. Okay, so we just want to add a new column where we want to score the leads, and the default is 0, and it is a integer. So yeah, super simple one. Here we just add column. So if you ever want to add columns to your table, you can do it this way, so you don't have to go through the whole table editor and do stuff like that. Basically what we did here is alter table lead, so it knows what table to add the column in, then simple add column language in plain language. If not exists, score, integer default 0. So the default will always be 0 in this column. Now let's go to the last one, which does some cleanup and actually can delete stuff for you. So we'll probably have to answer the permission here. Basically, a year and thousands of dead old messages are eating your storage, which isn't ideal. This finds everything older than 90 days, so you can look at it before it's gone, delete before looking at it, it's gone before. There's no tutorial Z, and on the free plan there is no backup either. Okay, so you can copy this, send it over, and you can see all of the messages that are older than 90 days. But since we have nothing here, let me just try to find or create one. I believe it's messages, right? Let me check. Yes, it's messages. So let's go to messages. Let's go to create an ad, and here let's do 2025. Okay, let's not do 2025. I forgot to save it up. Let's do 25 like this. Amazing. One quick thing, if you want to save stuff like sorry about that. If you want to make changes in here and you want to save it up, you don't click off because that does nothing. Basically, if I were to do this and then click off, that will do nothing. What you want to do is click enter. That's just a quick thing that gets me messed up quite a lot of times. And now we can see that we've got the one that is about 90 days old. All we can now do is either take this and send it over to another SQL that will delete it, or we can just come back here and delete it ourselves. Okay, now this is it for the pre-prepared SQLs. What I'm going to show you now is the ChatGPT prompt and how to use it so you can actually create any type of SQL you want to use. So let me take this, let me open up my ChatGPT account. ChatGPT, great. Now you can of course use the AI assistant here, but the trouble with this is you only have one option for the model and you have some limitations, because obviously if you were to do hundreds and thousands of functions in here, it will not work as good. But what it is much better for, it already has access to your table, so you don't have to send over the columns and the structure. You can just type create SQL that will delete all leads from my table messages older than 90 days. Okay, now we'll create this SQL, and since it has already access to the leads, it can do it pretty good. But I would still use ChatGPT, or at least I normally use ChatGPT, because I can just choose the model I want. If I want some more complex SQLs, it's much better, and if I want to give it more context, or even better, it is for edge functions. Okay, so we copied it, we send it over here. Now what you need to change is the my tables. You need to send over your actual table that you want to edit. So let's get this away for now. Let me do this. Okay, now let me walk you through the prompt. When I describe what I want, reply with one SQL query and a code block, so you can already paste it. and then one sentence explaining exactly what it does in plain language, because we don't understand this stuff. Okay, now you're the best SQL editor in the world. Generate PostgreSQL for my Supabase database. Then here you write your first request, but the only thing that you need to change is my tables. I'll just put here my table to edit if you want only one. So my table to edit, and here I would send over, for example, let's do leads, name, leads, structure, and you just paste over, for example, let's go to the leads. You paste over one query or one row. You export it or just copy it as CSV, you copy it as CSV, you paste it over here, and now it will generate the SQL that we want, but I didn't say anything what we want. So let me just copy this and over again. And here my request, I want you to delete any leads that are lost and no longer interested. Okay, now we can send this off and see how it works. And we can see that the AI assistant already helped us in here. So yes, AI assistant is great with the Supabase. If you have a pro plan, I would 100% just use this. I wouldn't use ChatGPT. If you don't have the pro plan, ChatGPT can be much better for the context and stuff like that. Now again, one more thing I believe I said is it can ask questions if the query is ambitious. Yes, right here, ambiguous. Ask one short question, no SQL query, just the query. Okay, so do you mean delete every lead where status lost, or only lost leads whose raw payload says they are no longer interested? So I would say status lost. Though it's pretty interesting that it asked this question, because I'm not sure if in the messages raw payload has anything like that, but yeah. So let's select this, run it through our SQL right here. SQL lost. Now if I will to run this, it will probably ask me for permission, because this query does delete someone. So let's run the query, and we can see that all of these were deleted. Now you can again export them and do what you gotta do with them. Alrighty, then the next thing that we've got is, yeah, nothing much. We will just move to the next part. Amazing. Now let's get into something even more interesting, which are edge functions. Let me tell you, if the SQL editor and the SQL language and the coding was crazy to you, be ready to get your mind blown by this one. Because here you will feel like an actual developer, but don't get scared off, you don't need to understand anything. No language, no programming, no nothing. By this video, simply you will know how to use this, you will receive ChatGPT prompt how to build these edge functions, and yeah, you will have a hindsight of what these are. Alrighty. Now, I will try to keep this brief, not going into any technical details, no jargon. Basically, in a nutshell, what are edge functions? Well, let me tell you, as a metaphor, edge functions are like automations living inside of your Supabase or hosted inside of your Supabase. So let's say you have some automation inside of N8N. I'm pretty sure everybody's familiar with N8N at this point. You have automation like this in N8N. It lives inside of Supabase with the edge functions. Now, why not just put this code on your website and host it there? Well, because websites, and I learned this the hard way, are visitors' computer. They live on the visitor's computer, so they can access everything, even the API keys. Now, how I learned this was I sent over my API key to my website, somebody took it, and I only realized once I had hundreds of dollars spent in credits, which was not ideal, right? I just had a notification like your account doesn't have any more credits, and I had 150 of credits in there before, which wasn't ideal. Nobody gave me a refund because it was my own fault. Now, forwards you will see on the screen: post, get, endpoint, and secret. Post, super simple, it's an HTTP request method where basically here's some data, please save it, or please give me some results back. Get, please just give me some data back, you are not sending anything. And endpoint, that's really just a fancy word for the web address you call. Secret, those are just secret like OpenAI API key and stuff like that, which we will be setting up in our Supabase. Okay, now here with me you will be building free edge functions: lead capture, daily digest, and AI lead scorer. Now every single one of these is pretty much broken down here, so if you want to read it, go ahead, but I will get straight to building so we don't waste any more time. Now let's go down here. Let me just refresh this real quick. Okay, now let's go down here. You can just copy all of these as they are. So copy, go to your Supabase. On the left, you can see edge functions. Deploy a new edge function via editor. We delete this because it's a template, and we copy and paste everything from here. Now you can see we've got some nodes up here, but you don't really have to take care of them since AI doesn't understand that Supabase does some stuff differently than it wants. It gives us a post URL, but you have to be careful. Do not use this one because that's not the actual URL. Since the function name is rapid responder, it's gonna be different. So let's deploy the function. Okay, and we can see that the actual URL is up here. So we copy this URL. Pretty interesting thing and important thing what you want to do is either delete or off this, which is verified GUT with legacy secret, where basically we'll have to send over a header instead of our HTTP request with authorization and our ARM key, which I'll be showing you how to get later, but it's pretty unnecessary for something like this, I believe. So let's save the changes. Now what you can do is copy this curl, but you don't have to since it is pretty unnecessary. You can just go to NADN, go to Cloud Code, go to your website, whatever you want. Since this edge function, in a nutshell, what it does is it takes some new lead that you receive from either, I don't know, website form, or maybe they message you, DM'd you, whatever they do. You want to get it saved over to Supabase, to the database that we just created a few seconds ago. So what you can do is either in WordPress send over a webhook or HTTP request to this specific URL we just created with our edge function. Let me see this one, or you can go to NADN. I already set up the form, example form, so we don't have to waste time with this, and we're not here for 10 hours. Just like it's already much longer video than I wanted it to be. So yeah. Okay, now we create HTTP request. Here we choose post because we are sending over data, I believe. Yes, post. We go this, we paste over the URL we copied from our Supabase, and we just send over the body. Since in headers we would send over the authorization, but we don't need it anymore. Okay, now let's do the body through copy and pasting it from our code. Let's go to code. Now here we can see the whole body that we need to send over. So we've got name, email, company, name, add body field, email, ready, company, great. I believe there is a source, right? Source, and lastly message. Great. Now we will integrate this with our form directly right here, but I don't want to trigger it right away. So this, let me pull in some information. Skyline, I believe, is our example company. Source, website, message, I love dogs. Great. Let's submit this, and we'll see that we've got some mock data in here from the JSON. Great. Now we want to integrate this with dynamic variables. I know a lot of jargon, a lot of crazy words I'm using here, but when you watch the video, it's super simple. We just drag and drop everything from left to right. So the email, the company, source, message. Great. Now what we want to do is just click this off, and we'll send our information to our database instead of Supabase. We basically triggered this function. Now we can go to leads table. We can check down here. Then we've got, okay, we don't have it in here yet, or do we? I'm not sure. Yes, we have it here. Timontos. We've got the email, Skyline, website, new. We don't have the deal value since that's not what I sent over. We've got the raw payload where we have the message, I love dogs. We've got the ID, and these set up were afterwards, so we don't have those. Okay, created ad is not here yet because I didn't send it over, but yet we can also do this automatically, where basically we can set this as now later down the line. Okay, something interesting I wanted to say, change. Oh, okay. Basically, what I added to the edge function is if you already have the same email, it will just update it and keep one row. It will not upsert and create a new row, since it would create duplicates, and we don't want that, right? It just updates. Okay, so this is pretty simple. That's how it works. That's our first edge function. Let's go to the second one, which is a daily digest. Basically, how this works is, again, we go to edge functions, we go to functions, we deploy a new function via editor, we delete this template, we send this over, deploy it, we can name it as we want, and now it's clever action, we copy our URL. Okay, now how this works is it basically does a summary of what happened in the last 24 hours. For example, you're going to sleep and you want to understand in the morning what you need to execute on, what new leads came through, what happened in the last 24 hours. That's what this works for. So let's schedule trigger. So we want to use basic cron trigger inside of an ident. Though you can use any type of cron trigger even inside of Supabase. Let's set this up at, for example, 4 AM, so it is before we wake up. And yeah, then we do HTTP request get, we send this over. We again have to be pretty careful and delete this or off this, so we don't have to send over any type of authorization, otherwise it would not work. Now if we try this, it should give us the results. Yes, now obviously because this is all mock data and I added the database in a few minutes, it doesn't show us any real results. But how we can also, what I would do next is probably connect this with OpenAI. Let's do messaging model real quick. I know this isn't really an ident course or masterclass, but I think it's pretty valuable and I want you to use these edge functions the best way you can. I'm choosing model 4.1 mini because it doesn't have the thinking, which is super annoying sometimes, mostly when you are trying to record some quick video. Okay, so we send over the JSON. We want to send it as a string so everything is coming together. Great. Now this is your summary from last 24 hours. Your task is to create a simple daily brief of what happened and what should I do next. If nothing much happened, make sure to let me know. Okay, so this basically creates a quick summary for us, or a daily brief. Then you just connect Gmail. So Gmail, real quick, send message already. We send over the message. So let's do my email, morning brief. Okay, email type we want to text because HTML is not the right way because we are getting marked down here. Okay, execute the step. Great, now let's go to my Gmail to see if this works, and it should. There is no way why it shouldn't work. I tried this a couple times before and it did not work. Okay, so we have a quick daily brief. It doesn't look the best, but it is okay. I mean, we could play around with the HTML, but this is not what the video is about. So yeah, that's the second edge function. Now let's go to the third one, which is probably a bit more complex to somebody new to this stuff. Basically, we want to use OpenAI API key and actual prompt inside of Supabase. So let's go to our edge functions. Create, deploy a new function, delete the template once more, quick worker, deploy the function. Great. Now to this one, basically what it does is it scores our lead and sends over any necessary data why it's scored this way. So when we send over our email, it goes to the Supabase database, it takes all of the data from our table leads and scores the lead how it should. Okay, now since we have this, we can just on off this little button, so the verification. Then we copy our URL, we go back to an ident. Let's do manual trigger because you probably will be triggering this manually. Of course, you can build any type of automation you can think of in here. Really, it's completely on you. I'm not gonna use set node because it's pretty unnecessary. Let's do the HTTP request. Now, one more thing that I would say you should be careful about is inside of here, it gives you a curl that you can use, but 99% of the time, if you are using some custom body, it will not work. So I wouldn't recommend using this. I would recommend doing the curl yourself or building the HTML yourself, where basically you just click post, you add the URL, we send over the body, which is email. Now, how do I know this? Well, if you go to the code, you can see the body is email and the email that you want to send over. Now let's go to our leads table. Let's pick somebody, Katarina. Let's pick Katarina, send it over. Great. Now let's push this and see what it comes out of. Oh, I forgot. one pretty important thing. Basically, in our edge functions here, we've got the secrets. Now, this is what I was talking about. We'll be creating some custom secrets. Though, of course, you have some already set it up in here. So the Supabase URL, Supabase database URL, Supabase publishable keys. These you don't have to do anything about. Those are dynamic variables that are already working for you. But if you want to use some new ones, like for example, we are using right here in the code OpenAI key. Let me see if it is somewhere so I can show you. I think I opened the wrong one, right? Yeah, I did open the wrong one. It's quick worker. Supabase API. Okay, so we are basically sending over OpenAI API key. So we have to save this secret exactly as OpenAI API key. Now we want to paste over our OpenAI API key. I'm not sure if I have something saved up for the OpenAI API key, since I am pretty weird with these keys. I just create always new ones. I don't like to save it up. So yes, in this video you will see my API key, but once you can see this video, it will already be away. So it's pretty unnecessary for you and useless. Okay, API key, bam. Let's copy this. I hope we've got some credits in this exact one so you can see how it works. If not, I apologize and we will not see how this works. Okay, great. So we've got OpenAI API key. Now let's trigger this once more and we'll see what it happens. While this is happening, we can go to our edge function and check out what model is using, since that's pretty interesting. Quick worker code. It is using model GPT 4.0 mini. I wouldn't pick this one. I would probably pick GPT 4.1 mini, but I mean, it's whatever. Okay, then we can see we've got the output with the scoring of 8. Katarina has expressed a specific need for online booking, and the reason is out here as well. Now you can again create a new Supabase database, or you can just save this up in our already used Supabase. So for example, update the row, you would connect our credentials, which will be the next thing that we are doing since all of our edge functions are ready. Now, one more thing which I want to show you is how you can use the ChatGPT prompt. It should be somewhere here, right here. So you copy this, you send it over to ChatGPT, or you can again use the AI assistant inside of here and create edge functions through him, since he has access to all of your tables already and you don't really have to do any much of the work. Though if you want to use ChatGPT, paste this prompt, again, context, you need to send over all of your tables right here. Though it isn't too bad, you just send over your tables and any information that needs. If you want to do edge function for just one table, you can send it over, and yeah, then any information that might be necessary. So what you are trying to build, what is the outcome of this edge function, and then it will just output the actual edge function for you. You can test it out. This prompt is what I use to build all of these edge functions we have here. Alrighty, so this is that for our part section. Edge functions. Let's go to the next one, which is the storage. Now, storage is pretty interesting part of this whole video. It's gonna be pretty quick because there isn't much I use in here, much I do. Basically, you can create your own bucket. So for example, let's do public bucket brand assets. So brand assets, let's put it as public. You have a choice. You can be public bucket, which means anybody can access it, or it can be a private bucket where only someone with Supabase credentials can access it. So yeah, we create a public bucket from this one, and then private bucket, which can be the client files, which we keep like this. Great. Now, how this works in a nutshell, basically go to your bucket, not the client file, since we will need credentials in there. Here you can upload anything you want. It can be a PDF, it can be a video, it can be, for example, some house, PNG, I don't know why I have this, or whatever it is. But yeah, you can upload in here. Once it is uploaded, you've got a URL and you can host your files like this. You can always come back to them and have them in here. But what you should be careful about is this quickly waste your limitations on the free plan. You cannot have much storage and many buckets in here, since it is a lot of internet connection and stuff like that. Anytime you open this, it gets spent. So 2 megabytes get spent. I think you have like 5 gigabytes. If you send this over to like 100 clients, you are done. Alrighty, that's pretty much for the storages and the buckets. For the private one, let's upload the same thing. Let's act like it is some private client details, and normally I wouldn't be able to access it through, for example, some API. Maybe I won't be even like this. Okay, I will be, because we've got the credentials in here, so the token up here, but it expires within, I believe, you can choose 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, or custom expiry. You can even book 10 years or whatever you want. So yeah, that's the difference between private bucket and public bucket. Basically, private bucket, I would not be able to access this data inside of n8n using some API key. I would have to use the access token and send it over. Okay, that's pretty much it. It is super simple, though I use these buckets and storages quite a lot. Let's get to the next section, which is, okay, this is pretty good one. I love to go through this one, which is basically 8-part vector database and RAG agent. Supabase is amazing with vector databases, and I will show you how you can set one up real quickly. Amazing. So I prepared a quick workflow inside of n8n. I will make sure to leave this somewhere for you so you can access it. But yeah, this is all you need to store stuff into vector. I will show you what vector is and how does it work. Also, we'll be using SQL Editor now. You will see a use case for it, where basically we went to Supabase docs. We want to figure out how to work with the vector. You just come to this tutorial page and you copy the SQL. It sets up everything inside of your database. Now, basically, what are vectors? Well, vectors are like the language of AI. Basically, it's numbers and stuff like that. Decimal numbers. It's conversion from text to the vector, which is conversion from text to the decimal numbers. So that's pretty much how it works in a nutshell. I will show you in a second exactly how you can see it. But first, we need to understand how do we convert stuff into this vector. Now, we've got workflows for that. Of course, you can find some workarounds. You can use Claude Code, but Claude Code sometimes messes stuff like this up quite a lot, because it doesn't have the capability to make it as customizable as you can do it yourself instead of, for example, n8n. Though, of course, if you are doing this as a one-time project, Claude Code is amazing. If you want to use it multiple times, then I would go with this route through n8n. But either way, you have to set up your database. So yeah, let's copy this. Let's go to our n8n. Let's go to our Supabase SQL Editor, and let's paste our SQL. Now you can also do this automatically with AI. You just have to send over your MCP to SQL and you'll get everything ready. Now let's run this. Basically, in a nutshell, what this does, you're familiar with SQL. It creates a table that is called documents. This table has these columns, and it first creates a extension which is called a vector, which are these vectors 1536. 1536 are the best ones that work with OpenAI, and that's the ones we will be using. Then it creates a function which is match documents, so an edge function, which this edge function will help us filter and not help us, but AI find the relevant information and output the actual embeddings. Basically how it works is based on similarity, it picks what is the best answer. Okay, now let's go to table editor. We can see we've got the documents table here, but there is nothing inside of it. We have to get the information in there. So that's why we use n8n. We go to n8n. First, this is the first workflow that we need to use. I already set it up. I will just walk you through it in a nutshell. I set it up mock data, where basically I send over some page of an article as a body. Normally, you can of course connect Google Drive here, but that's not what this video is about, so I didn't want to waste time by finding a Google Cloud API and all of that stuff. You can connect Google Drive, you can connect your local information, I believe is still here, like files. Yes, read and write files from the disk, so you can connect your local files. You can do pretty much anything here. You can just add anything in here. Now, this is Supabase vector, where basically this integration done through Supabase and n8n. It already does all of the work for us, but we do need to connect our Supabase credentials, which will be super easy. We just connect our host and service row secret key. So let's go to Supabase one last time. our host, we can get all this information in the settings, project settings tab. Here on the left we can go to data API key. Here we can get the database URL, send it over, just delete the rest, okay, like this. And then we go to project settings once more, we go to API keys, legacy anon service role API key, and we get this service role. We send it over, we save this up, we can rename it as Skyline Supabase, and we are done. Great, so we have our Supabase connected. We can see, refresh this list, okay, no, Skyline Supabase, we can just choose this. Now we can see all of our tables inside of it. Then let's connect the documents one. Query name is match-documents, I believe. Let's go and see. Yes, match and documents. So like this, it automatically is in there. Match documents, embedding batch size. Let's keep it at 200. Though we'll probably be changing that later down the line. Let me delete this for now so I can show you how it works. Basically, we need some data loader. We've got two options. We've got a default data loader, or we can do a custom one, which I like to use. We can add some metadata. Metadata is basically an additional information that is the same always. It is on vector exactly. Okay, we can connect this. Now we can either load all input data with the JSON or load specific data, which I'm going to do, and just send over the body here. Okay, now the custom text splitting. Here we just add recursive character text splitting, choose chunk size 800, which I seem to find out is the best, 800, and chunk overlap is 200. So basically in every 800 characters there will be, or tokens, there will be 200 tokens that are overlapping. Okay, great. Now embeddings, here we choose text embedding free small, which is pretty important down the line when we are using AI to search this stuff. Though yeah, that should be pretty much it. We can just send this over and see what it does. Okay, amazing. It seems like it inserted everything that it should have. Now let's go to our Supabase and check the document so I can show you what the embeddings are and how do they look like. Let's give it a few seconds. Great. So these are the embeddings. You can see it's pretty weird. It's these decimal numbers, pretty long ones, and yeah, no human being can understand this. It looks pretty scary. And then here we've got the actual content in normal plain language. We can see that it is overlapping. Here we've got chief, and we probably have it somewhere down here as well. Though I'm not sure if this is exactly how it works in here. It's probably just overlapping in the embeddings. Okay, but this is great. We've got information. Now we need to somehow retrieve it, and that's what the next step is, where we use OpenAI again and AI agent. With Supabase we can just pick the Skyline Supabase, choose documents once more, use this tool to retrieve information from vector database. Let me walk you through it a bit more. Here we've got limits, so how many documents or rows it wants to include or retrieve. And then we've got include metadata, so we do want to include metadata, but doesn't really matter. Re-rank results, this is really optional. You can add a re-ranker here. It costs you some money. It's a Cohere API. I sometimes use it. Right now it's completely unnecessary since our page is like 3, 5 or 19 rows, so pretty simple. Now everything should be set up here, right? It seems like not sure why. Oh yeah, we don't have any prompt. So to this prompt we basically just want to send over the chat. So hi. Right now let's do hi. Okay, we need to send something in here. Hi. We'll use it as a dynamic variable once more, like we did in the last workflow. So we connect this. Now we send over message chat input. This is your message from user. Great, and then we have a system prompt. This system prompt I copied from our presentation down here. You can use it yourself. It's a super simple prompt, nothing specific. Okay, now we can talk with our database, which is the interesting part, though I don't understand why we have still this error in here. Everything should be working just fine at this point. Let me see, embeddings, text embedding 3. This is what I was talking to you about, where these embeddings must be the same as our vector embeddings when we're converting the text. Okay, now everything should be working fine. Let's try to execute it. Maybe it's a glitch with N8N. Open chat. Now let me also open the document or JSON and see what we can ask. Some number here. While artificial intelligence service accounted for approximately 1.7 billion, so building those clusters, how the first division generated. Let's do this question. So how much artificial intelligence services accounted for? Though it's probably not enough. Dynamics reported revenue of 8.4 million during its most recent fiscal year, representing of approximately 44. Its cloud infrastructure. Okay, so no star dynamics. How much did artificial intelligence services account for? Okay, let's do that. So no star dynamics. How much revenue in North did AI account for? Okay, now let's send this off and see what happens. We should get the right response. Let me open the chat up once more. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, so 1.7 billion, which is exactly the information that we just read inside of our document. So yeah, this is how you work with vector databases, how you can connect them. You also now know how to integrate it with N8N. So let's go back to our spreadsheet or to our presentation and see what's next. Okay, so the integration part, give me a few seconds, I will be right back and show you how to integrate this. Okay, since you already understand how you can create connections with N8N, since that's what we did a few seconds ago, and the vector database section, I'll just show you the make.conf and Zapier. First, make.conf, super simple stuff, connection name, you can use it whatever you want. Project ID, how do you get this? It's extremely simple, you just go to your URL to Supabase and you copy this. This is your project ID. Okay, so project ID and then API key. API key isn't really API key, they just messed up with the calling. It's actually your service. It's actually your service role key, I believe. Service role, yes, it's your service role key. So let's save this up, send it over, save, and our connection should be connected. Great. Now we'll know if this is working, yes, by our tables. So make.conf is working perfectly. Now let's move on to Zapier. Unfortunate news, I just now realized that Zapier is living in the old age and doesn't have Supabase connection set it up. So I don't want to spend more time on this video by creating HTTP requests. That's why I will leave Zapier out. I mean, who uses Zapier these days? So yeah, let's move on to the last part, which is the MCP, I believe. Yes, which is the last part, and it's our MCP connection with Cloud Code. So let me open up my Cloud Code, create a new chat. Now in this new chat, basically you have multiple options. You can connect it through the chat, so you can send over, connect my MCP, blah blah blah, send over the information, or you can go right here, click customize, go to plugins or connectors. Here search up Supabase, and you can connect your Supabase. That's how simple it is. But if you want to use the right MCP, I wouldn't go through this route because you are limited to only one MCP per account and will always keep using your that one MCP that you connected. That's why I like to use it normally, where I send over the MCP information. You have everything that you need right here, where basically it's your project and your access token, and that's pretty much it. There isn't much that you need. This one is read-only, this one is full access. Read-only is great if you want to have him as your information, so he can retrieve information for you and do anything like that. But I normally give him full access because normally he ask for permission if he's doing any big changes, and I like to use this for even creating my whole database. So yeah, pub project ref, here we just send over our ID of the project, which is super simple, as we did it a couple of times in this video. We just copy this over, great. And access token, this is pretty interesting because access token is different from our API tokens. It is completely different. You basically go to your account on the right, you go to access token, you create a new token. Now be careful because you will never be able to access this token ever again. So name, skyline, expires, and let's do never generate a token. Now we have to copy this and save it up because, as I said, I will never be able to access it again. Work with this MCP of Supabase and add new table called, I don't know, let's do, we've got leads, we've got documents, and we've got messages, so let's do calls. Okay, now we'll see what it does, if it will work. If it will not, we will just have to change the MCP a bit because they might have updated, but it should work pretty fine. Okay, and we've got the results. Let's check it out. I had a tiny problem where basically Cloud Code tried always using the MCP that is already set it up to this project. So what you want to do is not just send it over and use this MCP, but actually tell to him like set this MCP up for valid JSON and make it work with Cloud Code so you can use it in next project. I just didn't want to do that because this is a one-time MCP connection. Now let's go to our Supabase and see what happened. Table editor, we can see we've got a new table called calls, and we have every single column guessed and created right here. Amazing. This should be about it. Let's go to our presentation. And yes, this is the whole stack, so everything you need you should have by now. I hope this was helpful to you, understand Supabase much more, and you can actually start implementing it for your business or maybe for somebody else. But make sure to check out my next videos because they will be also about business implementation and how to make the most out of Supabase. See you next one, and bye bye.